Welcome to another episode of Chat GRC on the Blue-Lusional podcast, where we interview a new grassroots candidate every single week. This week, we have somebody that we have been mutuals with for a little bit. Ma'am,
Mhm.
please introduce yourself, what you're doing here.
Yeah, I am so excited. So I'm Kaylee Peterson. I'm running for the U.S. House of Representatives in Idaho's 1st congressional district as a Democrat. But I've been running now. This will be my 3rd cycle. So really, we spent the last 4 years trying to develop new, successful rural progressive strategies that don't compromise our progressive policy, that don't compromise who we are as candidates and our commitment to taking no dark money or corporate PAC money. And yeah, it's been fantastic, especially as a working class mom of 2. It's been an opportunity of a lifetime.
Yes, I know. We love that. We love that you are a
And you've been
seasoned
out there.
candidate. You've been out there. You
She's
have.
at the town halls. She's talking to the people, like with mic in hand. I see it.
Mhm.
That
Yes.
was the first thing I learned is Idaho really hasn't had any kind of present leadership in decades, because if you have an R
Mhm.
next to your name, you can bank on the win. So when
Mhm.
I started this campaign, the first thing I did is just drive up and down my 500-mile long district, from the Canadian border down to the Nevada border. And thank goodness
Wow.
I drive a Toyota RAV4 hybrid, so I get great gas mileage. But one of the I did. I'm a speech and debate kid. So I went into some of our most conservative rural towns and I asked Republicans to come question the Democrat. I said, tell me what worries you about the D next to my name. Tell me what you want to see from government, what you're not getting right now. And I called them Republican town halls and I labeled myself a big old Democrat. And they were so successful that Dorothy Moon and the Idaho GOP sent me a cease and desist letter for hosting Republican town halls.
You're brainwashing them.
They told you stop.
For Republicans. I'm a
They
Democrat,
said
and I live
stop.
pretty clearly. But yeah, town halls is everything, being present, and I'm proud of that work because in 2023, in the off year, I did around a month-long campaign tour where I did constant town halls, and we got so much press and media coverage that for the very first time ever, my Republican opponent, current congressman, held his first ever public town hall, and he followed me place for place across the
He
state.
was
So
here for you.
he went to Lewiston, Kamei, he went to Grangeville, he went to Grangeville.
He said, I gotta
joked
clock in.
in Sandpoint, and I said, at this point, I should just announce that Russ Fulcher will be here in a few weeks, and he showed up. So I'm really proud of that work we did, because at the very least, I know that we are making elected officials work that much harder and be at least slightly accountable to the voters.
yeah.
When
You
they
had
feel
them shaking
pressure
in their boots.
of-
You did.
Exactly.
They were like, we gotta actually show up.
We have to follow her.
No. Well, I'm actually want to know, because you have been running. This is not your first time running. So I normally ask what made you run, but I actually kind of want to change up my question a little bit to say what inspired you to run. Like, what, you could have stopped, but what inspired you to say, I'm going to do this again this election cycle?
The whole thing was really, really unexpected. And for me, I grew up such a history nerd, such a political nerd. I loved the idea of good government. I had a favorite founding father. Like, that's how much I loved the American government and what it was supposed to be, right? And I had been asked several times in my life if I ever thought I would run for office, and I always said no, because I didn't come from anything special. I had a really difficult upbringing. I was low income. I didn't have a fancy resume and independent wealth to lean on. And it wasn't until I realized how desperate rural districts were for anybody who's even willing to put their name on the ballot, which is what happened in 2022, because there's no money in my race. There's no support in my race. The DNC won't acknowledge my existence. So they couldn't find anybody who's even willing to put their name on it. And to me, that seemed like the greatest honor of all time. It's a huge privilege to even have the opportunity to run the race. But then when I started actually traveling the district, I learned that so many of the things we tell ourselves as blue dots in red states wasn't true. The idea that we are alone, that we are isolated, that there are no other progressives. And the louder I got, the more present I was in these communities. Not only did I find other progressives who thought that they were alone, but I also met a lot of conservative Republicans who thought I was the enemy based on what they were hearing from social media. They were
Mm.
only hearing from the Freedom Foundation. They were only hearing from social media.
Yep.
They didn't meet a Democrat face to face that was saying, I'm a Democrat and I like fiscal responsibility. Like, I'm a Democrat, I want to lower your tax. You know what I mean?
They're like,
So,
no, you can't
You're
possibly.
like, wait,
You
what?
couldn't. That's
What?
not what
Does
I was
not
told.
compute.
but I knew immediately that there was no winning this race in 2 years, in 4 years.
Mhm.
I knew realistically we needed somebody that was willing to commit to the district, and look at the long-term goal, look at the long-term plan and the big picture. And we're in a really unique opportunity right now because of the work that we've done over the last 4 years. We have more contacts in this district. We have local candidates running in every legislative district. We have
Wow.
local progressive leadership organizing in every one of my counties, which was
Love it.
never a possibility in 2022. And we're in a position where I have the name recognition and the trust. I work with almost every
Mhm.
union in the state, and I didn't
Yep.
just show up for election day. I've been working with them for 4 years. And that
Yep.
trust and that name recognition is everything. So in 2026, it's a really unique opportunity that we could actually bring this home and unseat somebody. And I was asked if I wanted to run for Senate. I was asked if I wanted to run for a position.
Wow.
And I said no, because the truth is, I am running against the furthest right Christian nationalist, absolutely absent congressman in my state who has done so much damage to local communities that my plan is to unseat him first. So, yeah,
Yes.
this election, it was never a
Please.
question if I was going to run. I'm in it. I'm in it to win it.
Yeah, and you said it yourself. You pretty much planted a seed because if you think
Mhm.
about it, you played the long game. You were like, if it's not this election cycle, it's going to be the next one. And even though we are all devastated with the election results in 2024, we said that this might be what the very right wing, very conservative MAGA voter needed to happen to finally see that you are not safe, even in your very red state. And the effects will hit you first because you're a smaller state. And we're watching that happen. And we're actually watching a lot of them slowly realize over time that this is not what they actually voted for. So now they're going, wait, there was this very kind woman that would hold these town halls. And she was telling me that she actually wanted me to get some tax breaks. She actually wanted to lower the grocery prices. I need to talk to her. I need to see if she's on the ballot.
Mhm.
You know, you were
Right
like, I'm
now.
here whenever you're ready. I'm right here. And I
Remember
think
me?
that this could be your year because, like you said, you've built that trust with them. You've laid the groundwork for, hey guys, if you vote for Trump, this is what you're going to get. And then look, it happened. I'm still here and I want to fix it. I want to fix what your representative has done to you, what the president has done to you, what this country has turned into. I want to fix it and bring it back to where we should have been. And so I really think this might be your year.
It's a really we are in a really unique situation. And also there's a little bit of an advantage almost, I want to say. And it sounds
I
weird
was gonna ask you
considering
that.
we're in one of the reddest districts in all of America. I don't think I've ever used the word advantage in my race.
Yeah.
Uh, This is Project 2025, nationalist language. What this administration is doing, we've been seeing this for 4 years. We have
Mhm.
been trying to blow the alarm that they wanted to get rid of
Mhm.
the Department of
Yep.
Education, that they wanted to privatize veterans healthcare. They wanted to do all of these things. And at the time, rural communities thought I was a lying Democrat, that I was exaggerating, I was just throwing dirt.
Yep.
And now that my opponent is sticking behind these decisions that have really grave consequences for rural communities, for rural students. When he says things like the free markets will take care of education, what free
What does that
market
mean?
competitor is working in Idaho? There's no money to be made in rural Idaho to
No.
take care of rural students. So
No.
we've had the advantage of seeing this play out, and thankfully we've been blowing the alarm. So now rural communities are saying, wow, you were spot on. This is exactly what happened. And we're seeing those local impacts. But the important thing is twofold. As a rural Democrat, we have to do two things a little bit differently. The first is that we cannot use social media progressive language. How we communicate our progressive policy to rural, I almost have to sidestep what they've already heard on social media, what they've heard on
Mhm.
television. and just get to the policy. And that's the second aspect of it, which is solve the problem. I
Yep.
can't just talk about how Fulcher is the worst. I can't just talk about all these problems. I have to offer them a policy that I can vote on in DC immediately that would address this issue. And that's how we win in 26.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
You basically almost answered the next question with that. So we're asking everybody every
Mhm.
week because nobody knows anything. Everybody loves to be loud and wrong. They get on the internet, they start making stuff up. We're like, that's not real. So what does a congressperson do? And how would you be able to use that influence at the local?
Yeah, the way we define politicians now is so different from what it used to be. Because in
Mhm.
Idaho, the last great Democratic leaders we had were people like Frank Church. And this is a
Wow.
Mhm.
man who made such a massive impact. He held the CIA accountable when he was in DC. Like, this was a
Mm.
man who had some influence. But what we see now is completely different. It used to be
Yeah.
your elected Congress delegation was in your communities figuring out what were the issues, what needed to happen, where were there, and then they went back to DC. They took what they had learned and they advocated, they fought, they made sure that your issues were top line of the ticket of what was being addressed on the House floor. But what we see right now is think tanks and special interests drafting legislation and then
Mhm.
elected officials and politicians in DC either saying yay or nay. Like Russ Fulcher
Mhm.
isn't in Idaho trying to find a balanced solution between our dam operators and our tribes for salmon restoration. Like he's
Yeah.
not drafting legislation for better federal land management. He's just complaining about how it's being done now. So for
Mhm.
me, what a congressperson does is truly understanding every issue inside and out, what's happening, the real local experience, and then taking that back to DC and bringing stakeholders to the table who are willing to talk over solutions, willing to compromise so that we're not destroying one person over another, but finding a balanced
Mhm.
solution that works for the entire community. And then being a loud enough advocate who's willing to bring enough people to the table that we can create a movement. Like for government reform, that's going to have to take more than just Idaho's first district. I
Right.
Yep.
need the entire country behind the kind of
Yep.
legislation it's going to take to hold politicians accountable. So for
Mhm.
me, a congressperson really has the best job in the world. You get to learn everything that there is to know about your state, about your communities, about the industries, and then you get to find solutions that make people's lives better and create a movement so it's not just your state, but the entire nation that feels the benefits.
I love that.
See,
I loved everything you
this is
just
why
said.
we do this. This is literally why we do this. Because so many people, I mean, think about it. If you ask somebody, what does a congressperson do? They're going to say they're the ones in DC, right? Like they
That's
don't
it.
even, they just think that they were hired to go to DC and yell in the chamber. They
They
don't
think it's a
even
WWE.
attribute it to where they represent a district in a different state. That doesn't even come out of people's mouths. We watch video after video. And in a way, we frame it as that because, yeah, the only time you're seeing them is at Capitol Hill. We are rarely seeing these politicians in their own district. And that is where we have lost the plot. We have completely
Mhm.
lost the plot. These are people who are of service to a community, to a district, to a state, to a country, and we have completely lost the plot. So now we had to go back to politics 101 and we
Mhm.
have to
And we
learn. And
we turn them into entertainers.
that was politics 101 with Kaylee.
You need
Yeah.
Liz
Yes.
Miranda to do a new version of I'm Just a Bill.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because
We do. We really need that back
we do.
because
We do.
people
People
don't even know what that is.
But
need to
it's
know the
also
difference.
the amount that it impacts people. And this was something that I really learned early on that I carry with me every day on the campaign trail. I was up in northern Idaho in Boundary County, which is an incredibly rural county, and I was holding a town hall. And somebody spoke up at the end of the town hall because this had been my third or fourth time being in Bonners Ferry in Boundary County. And he
Yeah.
stood up and he said the last time a politician stopped here more than once was Frank Church. And one
Right.
by one, the people in the audience, the older people in the audience, started talking about their memories of when Frank Church brought the ag together locally. And people were moved to tears.
Mhm.
And it just goes to show we are so cynical about politics in today's America. And they're valid, righteously so. Both sides, Dems and Republicans, have
Yep.
failed the American people over the last 30 years. But people really want to see that connection. They want that legacy that they remember of a true statesman. They want to feel connected to the government and feel like they have an advocate. And so when you carry the weight of that, which is people's hopes and dreams for the future, their success of their children, or the opportunities that they'll face in adulthood. When I'm talking to students, I was talking to a student, a prior MAGA student who supported Trump the entire time. And when Trump went in and cut grant funding, this is a PhD grad student who was doing cancer research,
Yeah.
and his grants got cut for deep. And this is a student who had put his entire life into this one way to try and make the world a better place, and to have it gone like that over some nonsense. We carry people's hopes and dreams and futures in the work that we do. And I hope that the candidates that we see stepping up acknowledge that more, that this is not just another job title. This is not something we're just doing on social media. There's real weight to the consequences of what we do.
There is.
Yeah.
There is.
We
And
try to tell that to people.
we do, because it is
You're
very
playing with
important.
lives.
You are playing with lives, you're playing with human beings. And, this leads perfectly into the next question, because a lot of people have tunnel vision, and they are, and rightfully so at this point. Some people are really only concerned about them, where they are, and their problems. But we got to look at the big picture. What's going on in Idaho? How are your constituents being affected by this administration? Because it's hard to know what's happening in every single state.
Yeah, it is so drastic. What has happened in our state. And it really started with the Dobbs decision. Idaho was on the forefront of the strictest abortion legislation in the country. They had trigger laws, absolutely no exceptions. And the results of that we've been feeling for years now. So we've lost 43% of our OBGYNs. My district alone has lost 3 labor and delivery boards. There are entire rural counties without a single provider for prenatal or postnatal care. And that impacts the rest of our rural healthcare system. One of the things we actually learned is that a lot of our OBGYNs are married to other healthcare providers. So right now in the state of Idaho, finding any kind of provider and finding a provider under your specific insurance coverage is nearly impossible. What this administration has done with the Medicaid cuts, they're bragging right now about the $50 billion they're putting into rural healthcare, but that's after they cut $150 billion.
Yes.
They're really doing is bragging about cutting $100 billion of necessary funding that rural clinics and home health aides and nursing homes and children's behavioral health, all of these rely on that funding. So healthcare, reproductive healthcare, all has become a life or death situation. Women are being life flighted out of the state at a rate 6 times higher than before. Providers are now recommending that any pregnant woman in the state of Idaho get life flight insurance so that they won't be bankrupted when they have flown out of state for life-saving measures. And that is how drastic this has become. They were even fighting EMTALA, which is the law that requires providers to provide life-saving emergency care. They were saying that there is no termination that meets that criteria. You cannot terminate a pregnancy under EMTALA. But being pregnant is literally more, I believe it's the #1 most dangerous job in America right now. If it was a profession, it is life or death for so many of the people across the state. And it's hard not to just keep talking about this, because it really is something I hear and see each and every day. So that's something we're hoping that we can fight at the state level. We have reproductive rights on the ballot in 2026, which is another big reason that we know we are going to see a really high percentage of people on the left and people working against this administration showing up for the midterm elections. But then there's so much else. Idaho, 63% of our lands are under federal land management. So 63% of our lands, the state of Idaho does not produce revenue off of, which makes it really, really difficult when we're trying to fund local infrastructure, when we're trying to fund local public education. And unfortunately, Idaho also just passed a voucher scheme. So now for the first time, we're working at a $50 million deficit. And the federal government, our congressman back in DC, not only provided $0 in earmarked funding, because he said he did not agree with that kind of wasteful spending, even though it was already in our budget and our district relies on it for necessary infrastructure. But then we have school buildings that are literally crumbling. I have a middle school in northern Idaho. The ceiling collapsed in and they found asbestos. And so students had to learn from home. I mean, there are still schools in rural Idaho that do not meet ADA requirements. So when they have a student in a wheelchair, there is not access for that student without them trying to either carry or find another way into the school building. And now that schools are getting our taxpayer dollars, our local rural schools are getting even less in funding. And without the Department of Education, we really don't have a federal agency to step in and require that the state of Idaho provide education to every student, require that we improve these infrastructure, these roads, these bridges, these buildings. And this administration has done so much harm, it's hard to even put it all into words. The number of Forest Service employees who were let go in February of this year, 30% of our federal employees are veterans, 50% of whom are disabled veterans. These are the people fighting wildfires when we have the worst wildfire season that we've ever seen. Now those people are in harm's way because we don't have the probationary agents to step in on the relief crews. So it's just every single person I've spoken to, whether it's farmers who can't compete with big ag because of these tariffs, whether it's small businesses still being crushed under the weight of their tax burden and regulatory burdens while we give giant loopholes to monopolize corporate industries. Everybody in this state is suffering because of something that this administration has done and something that my opponent has directly supported.
Sheesh. They just left you guys out. Just left. Just left. Basically no type of oversight on anything. That is absolutely insane. Wow.
Vile. It's absolutely vile
It's
that it's so life or death in a state. Life or death.
literally like you just said. Okay, so on top of all that other shit, we have ICE running around and kidnapping people off the street. So at least we're seeing one of the pain points that people are having online is whoever gets in day one, we want to see you hold this administration accountable for breaking the law every single day. So would you be committed to that when you would that be one of your priorities when you get in?
100%. I'm really excited, and it's something we're not talking about a ton because I want to have a finished product. But my campaign is working with a team of people trying to draft new legislation that would create an oversight and enforcement mechanism for elected officials who break the law. Because we have seen over the last 10 years, elected officials get away with Trump constitutional rights and privileges, breaking rules, breaking regulations, lying under oath. But there's no consequences. There's no enforcement arm. There's no ICE agent to bust into Congress and take them out when they are doing wrong. And so that's something that we want to try and provide ourselves and build support for so that if I am elected, that's something we can put into committee day one and say it's time to hold this building accountable. But
Beautiful.
what we're seeing from ICE, we just had a raid in Wilder. And it's fascinating because you hear the language that they use to try and excuse it. In Wilder, there was an investigation into illegal horse gambling or horse racing. So there were 4 individuals with a warrant that investigators were going to pick up and talk to. What the Department of Homeland Security and ICE did is they globbed on to that investigation and they said, hey, this is an area with a huge Hispanic and Latino population. We should tag along. And they rounded up Idaho families, Idaho children, teenagers. We had small children zip tied in Wilder, Idaho. And I heard from a man who works with the Canyon County Republican Central Committee. So this is a man who supported ICE, supported mass deportations, and he was there working security that day. And he came out on the news and he said, this is not what I said I supported. This is not what we were signing up for. This is not what they've been telling us. And this is where our storytelling and our ability to put these issues on a platform becomes really important so people see the reality that it's just hard to put into words how despicable and horrific this is. Idaho children are being rounded up and zip tied with no due process, indefinitely detained in horrific conditions. I remember I'm such a Star Trek nerd, George Takei, who plays Mr. Zulu.
Yeah, nice.
Him and his family were rounded up during the Japanese internment camps, and his story I carry me because he went from successful San Francisco parents to being in the mud in
Mhm.
Arkansas. And then they just dropped him back off on Skid Row. And he had to build his life up because they had no business, no money, no home. And I don't see any difference in what this country has already done, the atrocities that we've seen, and what we are allowing to happen
Mhm.
right now with untrained men off the streets with six-figure salaries and absolutely no oversight. And that is not an America that I feel safe living in. And it's definitely not an America that people of color, that my Hispanic and Latino neighbors and students and children feel safe in. So we have to do something immediately so that 5 years from now, we can say we brought every one of them home and we held every thug on the street with an ice vest accountable for the work that that
Okay.
Perfection. The
Fine.
perfection.
I'll move
I'll
to
move
vote
to
for you.
Idaho.
Fine.
let me fix it first.
She's like, wait a wait a second.
Fine. I'm looking up flights
Wait.
tonight. Like, fine.
Well, I am very excited for this question because it's a question that we have not hit yet, which is insane in and of
Uh-huh.
itself, but I'm very excited for this question. So, as a foster care advocate, what kind of legislation needs to be introduced to start to improve the foster care system that I think a lot of people are glazing over? And this goes
Yeah.
into pro life and why are you having an abortion when you could adopt? And we say, well, we need to talk about the foster care system. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about legislation that needs to happen.
Yeah. I became a foster parent unexpectedly. And so the foster system did so much for a really important child in my life. But I also saw firsthand how little social workers are given to work with, how little infrastructure, funding, staffing is available in an organization and agency that has so much control over the success, life, and wellness of our children. I talk about this often with pro-life voters who think that voting against choice is pro-life because the statistics on being a child in poverty in America is horrifying.
Yes.
The statistics on being a foster child in the US is horrifying. And the more we continue to cut social services, cut funding that takes care of these children's, cut like the resources that are available so that we don't have a social worker trying to manage 42 cases at a time and keep each and every one of those children safe. That's first and foremost. And I hear so many complaints about what DHS did wrong but they are working with bare bones. And so
Yeah.
the first thing that the federal government has to do is prioritize these children. Make sure that we have social workers who are making more than $30,000 a year for 80 hours a week
Mm-hmm.
work. Make sure that we have a maximum caseload so that we have social workers who are able to spend the right amount of time in
Yeah.
homes, making sure that they are safe for our children. I do also think that there's a really unique push right now, something I personally experienced, which is this, and this is interesting because depending on what community you come from, there's different experiences. People of color experience children being removed from the home very quickly, whereas families in Idaho and white families experience the state trying to reunite at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something we have experienced where we are trying to reunite children with people who have taken no steps to improve themselves, improve their condition, who continue to put their children in harm's way. And we prioritize reuniting over the safety and well-being of that child. So there are
Right.
some unique kind of communities that are trying to find a solution to that, depending on what community, obviously, you're talking about. How do we have proper oversight so
Yes.
that we are not taking children away too quickly, but that we are also protecting children from dangerous situations? But the first and foremost, you have to pay for it. You have to invest. I think there was a horrific statistical 16%. Only 16% of children and foster children who grow up in poverty are ever able to get out of absolute poverty. And when I'm talking to
That's
rural communities who talk about pulling yourself up by the bootstraps, do you really
Mhm.
believe 84% of every person that is raised this way is just too lazy to make it? Or is it that we have created a system in which it is impossible for them to be successful? And I want to create an America where we are investing at the front. We are investing, making sure children are protected, that are not going into these dangerous situations. When they're not raised in poverty, you have a lower chance of substance abuse issues, lower chance of child abuse, lower chance of criminal behavior when you put them in amazing after school programs and opportunities.
Yep.
And then we're paying less for it up front than we are trying to incarcerate and criminalize and pay on the back end, which is what we are paying for right now.
Mhm.
And so we cannot afford not to invest in our foster children, but also all of our children, no matter the situations that they're raised on, need to be a priority.
Mhm.
That's all part of being pro-life.
That's
Yeah.
yes. It
That's
shouldn't
pro-life.
be about
Literally.
pointing fingers in the opposite direction because we don't want to take any accountability. And I think that's where we all say there's accountability on all sides of every aisle you look on. There's accountability everywhere, accountability for everyone. And we can sit all day long and point fingers, or we can work together and come up with legislation. We can start putting our money where our mouths are because these politicians have no issue taking corporate PAC money and trading and investing in stocks on the floor of the chamber. But then when it comes to putting money towards the children who actually need it to keep them safe, that is where all of a sudden
We don't have
we
it.
don't have it.
We don't have it. And this is something I want every candidate screaming at the top of their lungs, because this is the question I get from the most reasonable, moderate, and conservatives across my desk. Who's going to pay for that? How are we planning to pay for that? But I want people to understand how much money the US government funnels to the most monopolized corporate industries in this country. We pay trillions in tax cuts, handouts, subsidies, corporate welfare. And we never ask where that money is going because there is no oversight. There's no accountability. $49 trillion has moved from working class local economies to the top 1%. And that's not just successful Americans. The 1% is such a class unto themselves that no regular American can even hope or dream to reach that level. This is hoarded, monopolized wealth that has been there for generations. We can't afford not to revamp this system so that local economies can be reinvigorated, so that we have an educated, healthy workforce to bring money back to local economies and local levels, to small businesses, to allow entrepreneurs to compete. I mean, it's just, like I said, I'm going to say we can't afford not to. And I think by shining a light on how much of our taxpayer dollars are going to these corporate industries that are then lobbying Congress for billions of dollars, of course, coincidentally, then rural communities say, okay, if you show them where you're going to take the money from and put it to, I think we have a lot better chance of bringing them to the table.
We do.
Yes.
Yes.
Transparency. I think that's what people want more than anything right now.
Yeah,
'Cause
we
don't know
have.
what's going on.
We don't. And when we do hear of money going places, it is unchecked money, aka Congress has not approved said money to go, $40 billion to Argentina, money to airplanes left and right, private jets for cabinet members, multiple private jets for them to fly around. How many trips are large politicians and administration and cabinet members taking trips using taxpayer dollars to go visit their girlfriends, play golf? At the waste, fraud, and abuse was the Department of Education.
Yeah, that's in our veterans and our Forest Service workers and
healthcare.
But that's something progressives haven't done very well over the last 30 years. What the right and the far right specifically has been really good at doing is taking a small story and giving it a giant platform and trying to define an entire country around this one small story.
They did it with abortion. They did it with abortion.
Dead on. Yep.
In our favor. We have the data, the research, we have everything behind us, but we have not been successful at storytelling, at bringing that up to the platform and showing these communities the reality of the situation. So I know my campaign is working really hard. We're trying to figure out how to do that well, where we take data and we make it interesting. We tell the story behind it. We make it bite-sized and we spread it out as much as we can.
Yes.
11 months.
Yep.
Because we really do have every ounce of truth in this country is behind our policy. It's behind our legislation. It's behind our movement. We just have to figure out how to do it successfully. And I mean, we have to be able to beat like Nazis, right? Like they're not the smartest.
It shouldn't be this hard.
I think that's why a lot of us are going, what is going on?
What are you doing?
What are you guys
It shouldn't be
doing?
this.
Why are we opening up the government because, the Nazis said, "Oh, we'll have a vote on, we'll definitely vote on extending ACA subsidies." Well, everyone, if you haven't heard, no, they didn't vote
Psych.
to extend ACA subsidies. It's just
Who could have seen that coming?
It's just
Not me.
It's tired. It's tired. And yes, we do see the corporate politician Dems. They want decorum. They want to be the party of decorum, and they want to be able to reach across the aisle. And sometimes you just have to say, if across the aisle is Nazis, then I'm not reaching across. I'm
This
just
was a
not.
real issue because it's funny, I definitely have, my husband calls me the Mr. Rogers of politics. Children in my district call me the Miss Rachel because I definitely have that voice. And I definitely
Yes.
have like a mom vibe where I'm like, hey, everybody, we need to speak to each other with some respect. We need to,
Mhm.
but I
I
got
get it.
that a lot, especially when we have actual neo-Nazi groups and Christian nationalist groups and militant
Yeah.
extremists
Mhm.
Literally outside.
and
Literally
run
right
out.
outside.
If you Google Idaho right now, the top like 5 national news storylines are not great.
No.
And somebody asked me, how do you plan to work with somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene? And I said I would work across the aisle with people who wanted to make our country great. I will not work with Nazis. I will not work with people who are trying to tear apart the fabric of everything that this country
Yeah.
is supposed to be, of
Yeah.
the ideal that we're trying to fulfill. Like, that's what this country is. It's a promise that we will try to fulfill the ideals that we started with. And we've done a
Mhm.
terrible job of that, but
Yep.
we just keep trying to make it better and better and do better and
Have
Mhm.
to.
better. Yeah, we've
Yeah.
got, hopefully
Well,
millennials get it. We'll fix it.
Yes. Yes, please.
luckily, you won't have to work with old Marge. But when you do get in, what are your top 3 priorities?
First, it's definitely government accountability. I think one of the biggest issues we have is nobody trusts the government, and for very good reason. And if we do not close these gaps of corruption, of dark money, then we are going to continue having these issues. And I don't think we're going to be able to fix the problem. So it is
Fair.
things like immediately banning congressional stock trades, even possibly publicly funding campaigns, but
Yeah.
at least at the very minimum, comprehensive campaign finance reform, completely closing dark money loopholes. Like I said, I want consequences. If I go into a gas station and I shoplift a Butterfinger, I go to jail. But if we have congressmen who are breaking laws and hiding money and lying under oath,
Yep.
there's no consequence. So that's a big one. But then the second biggest priority for me, I'm a huge labor first, union first candidate. I am a union girly through and through. So I want massive economic reform that supports the bottom 50% of earners in this country. I want, if you're a retail worker, if you're a server, if you make $35,000 a year, you should be able to survive. And so that's been a huge one. And that also means antitrust legislation.
Yep.
I want to
Yes.
take a
Sorry.
sledgehammer to
Just
monopolize industry.
Yes.
I don't want to ruin a Wall Street Rose Day.
Yes.
That's my goal.
Wall Street is gonna be like, "No,
No.
no, here
She's
goes
coming.
Kaylee. She's
No.
coming."
I'll bring the mom finger.
Yeah.
Be like,
Finger wag.
You're like,
I
"No,
just
no,
realized
no."
like, gives me a hard time every once in a while. I'll see a picture and I'll be up there with the finger and I really do that. I thought we were exaggerating.
Sometimes it works, okay?
Yes.
But yeah, so economic reform, protecting collective bargaining rights is huge.
Yep.
And then it's hard with the last 3 because I think they're all vital to the success of our state, which is education, healthcare, and public lands. So I think ensuring that every single person in this country has access to an affordable provider and to healthcare, and making sure every student has the opportunity to a quality education. Like, it's hard to try and
Because you
prioritize
shouldn't
anything.
have to.
No, we should be able to do all of it. We are the
The
United States of
basics.
It's like,
America.
"Oh, what, human right should I focus on?" Because we apparently don't have them here. So I have to, it's like, and every time we ask most of these questions we ask every candidate, and it never gets old, that it's all the same answer. And it's to drive home to everybody listening that this is not a one This is not a one or single voter issue or single area issue, that even in our big blue cities and our very deep red southern states, it's affordability, it's healthcare, it is access to your basic human rights of education, of reaching a provider, of not having to be life flighted for reproductive health care. It has gone too far, and it does not matter where you live anymore. It doesn't.
It
Yep.
It doesn't. And I'm really grateful. All the things that I thought made me ineligible to run for office are all of the things and experiences that give me the perspective that I have. I was raised by a single mom. My mom is probably one of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life. My father was a veteran, really
Mhm.
struggled with a lot in life. And so it was really just me and my mom. And that woman worked 2 to 3 jobs at a time. I
Yep.
watched her lose jobs because she couldn't find someone to take care of me when I was sick. And I slept under her
Mhm.
cubicle and she got in trouble at work. I watched this
Mhm.
woman who had 15 years of impeccable experience get paid bottom dollar because she
Lord.
didn't have a bachelor's degree behind her name. And then the people I grew up with getting bachelor degrees still couldn't find a high enough paying
Yep.
job. I watched as my foster son struggled through a system. I watched as me and my husband, we had nothing when we had our daughter. We barely had 2 nickels to rub together. We really started from the bottom and built our life up. And so I understand we've been very lucky in our life being able to find some stability. Not every person in my position gets that. And it's because I had an incredible school system, after school system. My mom put every penny into making sure I was a theater kid and I was in speech and debate and I was at baseball and I was doing all of these opportunities that kept me out of trouble. And I look at where children are now. Families don't have the time to take their kids to those kind of programs or can't afford. Summer
Uh,
camp is over
two yeah.
$2,000 for 5 days. Who can
I
afford?
don't know.
And
I don't know
so
about.
I know that this is really life or death. There are people I've lost along the way, whether it was opioid overdoses, whether it was lack of health care. I've lost friends to breast cancer and brain cancer. I lost my father to cancer. Like
Uh-huh.
these are life or death issues for the people on the ground. And our congressmen don't seem to have an ounce of respect for how serious this is for the people on the ground here. And so, yeah, that's why I'll keep fighting because I know how
Mhm.
important and I also know how amazing and hardworking people like us are, and they just deserve someone that will actually fight for them.
They do.
Yeah, because they're not us. They literally don't represent us. Like, this is why, like, when I'm starting to hear now people go like, "Oh, well, did you hold office before?" Like that, that has to be a prerequisite for you to run. Like, no, like that does not matter. It should literally be like the description of you, like that we just heard. Like, it should literally be us, not
It should
the
be
1%.
This
grassroots.
is a really important
Yeah.
issue because this is something that I don't get a chance to talk about very often is the requirements that we look for in people we elect for office. Because I
Mhm.
think
Yep.
sometimes we look for people who will be successful and who have a history of being successful. But that isn't what a resume is. When I look at what my opponent has done in his life, he spent 20 years in the same job as an international salesman selling semiconductors and microchips. And then he went into commercial real estate where he didn't actually do very much in commercial real estate. And then he became a state senator. This man has never once had to build his life from the ground up. He comes from wealth. He was raised in wealth and he lived a very prototypical life experience.
Yep.
But he also has no ability to communicate the issues. It's terrible at trying to bring stakeholders together or bring that kind of communication
Yep.
that brings people to the table to find solutions. He is terrible at drafting any kind of legislative solutions that would fix a single problem in our state. So for me, I'm like, when we're looking for who we want to hire, sure, we want to look for integrity and work ethic but we should be looking at who knows these policies inside and out, who is
Uh-huh.
able to communicate our issues in a way where we're bringing more people to the table than we are driving them across the aisle. We
Mm.
have to start for different markers of success if we're going to
Mhm.
ever
Hmm.
get in DC.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
And the times are
Yeah.
different, guys. We say this every week on the podcast. Times are different, and you cannot expect your politician to check off every single box. There is no
It's not going to
perfect
happen.
candidate. Not every candidate is going to have the 100% stance you want them to have on Israel and Gaza. Not every single politician is going to have the perfect stance on what their top three priorities are for what yours would be. Right now, what we need is to get dictators out of office, wannabe dictators out of office, and we have to bring back our Constitution, at the very least. And
Bare
so
minimum.
you need to vote for people who morally align with that. It doesn't have to be a person in a suit. It doesn't have to be that they have a political science degree. They need to represent you, and they need to represent the Constitution, the US Constitution, through and through. I mean, that is where we have to be right now. And I wish that we could all I wish things were so great that we could build a perfect politician. We were like, wow, it's great. Let's make sure we have the most perfect people going forward to keep it great. Guys, we are down here. We are down here. Okay. We got to cool it with
I
the perfection.
I
Mm-hmm.
feel about
Just a
this
bit.
all the time because I am very, very lucky. I am married to the best man in the world. I went from being a stay-at-home mom to being a congressperson, and my husband supports me 100%. He cooks dinners. He works 7 days a week. He is my best friend, my partner, my favorite person in the entire world, and I still only agree with that man maybe 80% of the time. Like, this is the love of my life. No other person could ever be held above him.
Yeah.
I only agree with them like 80% of the time. So,
Right.
and
We
we have,
got to go with
That's
that.
a good
Yes.
percentage. That's solid.
yeah,
That's solid.
right?
I'm mad at
Solid.
that.
Yeah.
That's where we have to go
That's good.
back to it. I want to go back to what you were saying earlier because you were saying, there are a lot of people that don't feel represented. And this is quite literally for a lot of people, life or death in the next, 4 years, if we're thinking about what this administration could do. So we're already seeing that a lot of people don't even want to participate in voting anymore. They don't believe that it works. They don't want to be a part of it. What would you say to somebody on either side of the aisle that you meet in person in your district that's telling you that they do not trust the system and they are not going to be voting next year?
This is one of the hardest ones to talk about because when the system itself is broken, it is difficult to trust what comes out of the system. But I wish that I could explain to people how powerful their vote is. I honestly didn't even fully understand it until I became a candidate and I saw the numbers and I saw the data and I saw how the system works. The only reason that corruption in this country works is because every person is not already paying attention to who's running, what issues on the ballot, what dates are there. Therefore, the people with $1 to $5 million in dark money are able to get that message to the people they need to win. So if we had every single voter showing up to the polls, and here's the best part, most places you can get an absentee ballot. You can sit at home with a margarita. You can Google everybody on your ballot and vote from the comfort of your own home. So it really is something that you can do casually and conveniently and take the time to figure out what the issues are. But for me, in my district, this is a district that the DNC doesn't even look at. They literally have ghosted me multiple times. They won't respond to my emails. They set up meetings with me and canceled them. They do not care. And that is because they consider this district unwinnable. It's been written off and left behind. But let's say, even if we move the needle hugely, but we don't win, what that means is that next cycle, we are able to bring in more attention, more resources. Every way that we move the needle moves us closer and closer to being able to successfully defend the policies my district needs. So it's really learning the nuance. It's learning how important every single voter shows up to the polls, shows the support. Then it's easier to get the resources we need to support these good policies. It's easier. But yeah, I mean, literally, if every voter just showed up, we would never have had Trump in office. He does not have the majority. The majority of America supports abortion. The majority of America supports a working class economy. The majority of America supports these policies. But it's because we've been convinced voting doesn't work and that the system is corrupt, when in fact our election system is actually the one system that I don't think is entirely corrupted yet. So
Not
let's
yet,
use it.
no. That's why we have to.
Yeah,
We
not
have
yet.
to in order to have free and fair elections going forward. And to your point, there are so many times where some districts are written off and it's like, that's not winnable. And to that, I say, even to your point, if it's not winnable now, I'll use Afton Bain in Tennessee as an example. She did not win, but what she did do what she did do is slim a majority down to single-digit margins, which could have been a sweep for her had the 40,000 registered Dems show up to vote that didn't vote. So what this did was it put a microscope and it showed us who wasn't voting, which we already knew, but we needed to see it more in depth. And it also showed what happens when registered Dems and even Republicans that might want to vote Democrat show up and vote, what it can accomplish. So I definitely think if you're somebody listening, to get in the ear of the DNC and say, there is not one district that is not winnable, especially in this
now.
climate.
Especially. Well, and I think candidates, we need to start telling people tangible numbers. People want to see how can we win. And like, for instance, here in this cycle, I never promised in 22 or 24 I could win the election because I knew that was a promise I couldn't fulfill. The numbers were not there. We didn't have the resources, the infrastructure, the foundation. This is the first time where we see the numbers to actually being able to unseat Fulcher. So roughly I need 157,000, 160,000 votes to win in the midterm elections.
Yep.
The last election, I received 118,000 votes, but the last midterm election, I received 83. So roughly that means I need 25,000 progressives who normally don't show up at a midterm election to show up, which we have a chance because we have legalizing marijuana and reproductive rights on the ballot for the first time in Idaho in 2026. And then I need to reach 50,000 unaffiliated voters who aren't happy with a two-party system, who aren't happy with this administration, but don't consider themselves Republican or hardcore MAGA or Trump. So we just need to reach them with our message. So there is a way to win. It is very, very reasonable that we can reach that number of people, especially when I'm the only one actually in district. You know, I just hit 100,000 miles on my car driving up and down my district over the last 4 years. I have spoken to 50,000 people. So we have a really unique opportunity. We can win, but we need to show people those numbers so they can see it too.
All right. Fun portion now. So I don't have an answer in my head for you. So if you were running for president, who would be your dream VP, living or dead?
What?
I know.
I should have planned for this one because this might be the hardest one. I mean, honestly, having, I think, like FDR would be so interesting just because he already had the second Bill of Rights ready to go as at his last state of address, so we could just immediately push that through. But then maybe bringing good old Eleanor Roosevelt to the table, like let her have her time right now would actually be really amazing. Bobby Kennedy, it's hard not to say Bobby just because he had hit such an incredible point and I think he had learned so much. There's so much. Michelle Obama. I mean, you can't not have Michelle Obama at the table. That woman through most of my 20s. Now, modern day, I think I really enjoy Pete Buttigieg. He's a great communicator. He does a great job in rural districts. His experience in infrastructure, I mean, that alone could win the tickets. That's hard.
Damn.
There's more I have in my
Those are
right?
Jeez.
She's like, here is my fantasy football lineup.
Fantasy football cabinet. Just a whole cabinet of powerhouses.
Literally,
Jesus
she
Christ.
said, I'll do the whole cabinet. I'll do you one better. The whole cabinet.
No notes.
No notes.
Hell yeah.
No notes. No notes. Perfection. This is also a fun section. This is a who said that. So we're going to give you some quotes and we're going to give you two people. One of them said it and you'll have to pick which one said it. Okay.
We've only had one person go 5 for 5.
Only one. So the bar is the bar is down here. Okay.
We realized last week that these actually are a little bit
They are hard because it's like, which evil politician said this evil thing? But it's fun and we get to say all like the actual evil things that politicians are saying and just put it out there. So starting with the first quote, here we go. The quote reads, "The thing about Donald Trump is that he lacks the character and the moral center we desperately need again in the White House." So this is an earlier quote. So who said that quote? Mike Johnson or JD Vance?
JD Vance, right?
You would think it's JD Vance, but it was actually Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
What?
Yes, they
Oh, I
all
think
start as never Donald Trump, never
Oh
Donald
yeah,
Trump,
this
right?
is the whole theme of this one. We actually hate him, but we work for him right now.
Yes, this is
Oh, yeah.
all pre we had to work for him.
Just imagine like how awful it must be to live every day. Like I think it's almost punishment in and of itself that JD Vance and Mike Johnson now have to work with Trump day in and day out. Like
Yeah.
they answer to him. They have to, you know, keep him happy and appease him and try and talk at a level that he understands. So I hope that that's enough of a
Yeah.
punishment till we get into office.
Oh,
and
it
hold him.
is. And then the
defeat.
real punishment comes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, the next one isn't easier, but here we go. The quote reads, "If we nominate Trump, we will get destroyed and we will deserve it." Who said that? Lindsey Graham or Mitch McConnell?
I want to say Lindsey Graham, but I'm going to say Mitch McConnell.
It's actually Lindsey Graham, which is
Oh,
even crazier that it was Lindsey Graham.
I remember seeing that one too, and I was like, oh,
Because
he'll never win.
This sounds like something Mitch McConnell would say right now.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard because I know that they've all smacked Trump. Like I've heard
Every single one of them.
every one of them.
It's just which one said this specific. Truly, all are correct.
I can be the first to go 0 for 5. Maybe
Yeah,
I can hit that marker.
I know.
You still
I
got time.
know. We still got time. There's still 3 more. The next one, this one's just crazy. The Trump or goes, Donald Trump is such a narcissist that Barack Obama looks at him and says, "Dude, what's your problem?" Who said that? Ted Cruz or Ron DeSantis?
They're both so awful. I was like, who's criticizing Obama? But
Always
honestly,
got to throw that one in.
I would've-
Right.
Ron DeSantis, I'm going to pick him just because he seems a little more evil. Ted Cruz seems a little more like a clown. So I'm going to go with Ron DeSantis.
It's actually Ted Cruz. And I actually, if I didn't know any better, would have thought Ron DeSantis would say that because the whole "dude, what's your problem" is very, very Ron DeSantis frat boy energy.
See, they're like the same guy to me.
Yeah.
Like I mix them up. They're like the same guy because
Yeah.
they're both like suck in the same way.
They both
They're like-
abandon their place the
Separate-
second that they have to. They're like,
Yes.
peace out.
Oh my goodness.
All right, next we've got the ladies. Which lady said this? "He's not my candidate. People came to this country for religious freedom, so I believe his statement was un-American, and I don't agree with it." Who said it? Kristi Noem or Lauren Boebert?
I'm going to say Kristi Noem.
You're correct. It's Kristi Noem.
We got one.
Un-American. She said he was un-American.
Oh,
Boebert kind
how
of
the
rode Trump's
turntable.
coattails. I don't see Boebert as being anybody. I don't know. Yeah, I lucked out on that one.
Yeah. Yes. I probably would have said Lauren because the un-American's very.
I don't think she's ever said anything.
But yeah,
can't-
but it's hard. Some of them
Yeah.
have been stands since day one. But I said the same about Marjorie, and now
That woman
Now
will
she's gonna get rid of another. Mm-hmm.
All right. Final quote. The quote is, "He is a con artist. He runs on this idea he is fighting for the little guy, but he has spent his entire career sticking it to the little guy, his entire career." Who said that? JD Vance or Marco Rubio?
I think this is the JD Vance quote I thought the first one was. So let's see if I'm going to go 0 for 2 on JD Vance quote. I'm going to say Vance.
It's Marco Rubio.
Little Marco.
Little Marco is sticking it to the little guy.
I'm
It
gonna
is
have
quite
to-
literally.
That quote I have in my head playing on repeat.
Here's the thing. This is just highlighting all the terrible things they say and why none of them should be in office. And this is showing the grift that this is. This is all a grift. All of these people hated him 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Hated
Probably
him.
still do.
Hated them.
Most of them still do.
They are cashing in on a payday. It makes me think of the woman who just came out about her anti-transgender essay in college. Now,
Yes.
this is a woman who is successfully in a very high standard sorority in which she had to keep incredibly high GPA. And I'm in college still right now. I understand there are expectations of what you need when you write an essay. You have to
Mhm.
cite You can't just say what you personally believe and say it's from the Bible, even if you are using a biblical reference. This is all a grift. And now she is going to get on late night talk shows, and she's going to have a nice old paycheck, and she's going to have a job lined up for her at the Heritage Foundation. And she will do absolutely anything because it's easier than actually doing the real work.
Yep. I love that.
It's like
you
we can
called that
call
out
it
because
from a
people don't see
mile
it.
away.
Oh, you're going to start a podcast and you're going to be a Fox News host in 3 years? Got it. Okay.
Yep, she's going to be
Who
on
could have saw
panel
that?
on the Pierce Morgan show by spring.
She'll be running the Department of Homeland Security or Department of Defense.
Hey, we got to kick Christy out. She's not hitting the numbers. That girl, though, that wrote that essay, is she looking for a job?
She's looking real good. Yeah, let's get her in there.
But I'm not qualified. I'm the one.
Right?
That's why we say, guys, don't let anybody tell you you're not qualified to run for office.
No.
Michelle Obama said it best herself when they were like, why haven't you run for any version of office? And she's like, once you sit down at the table and you realize these people are dumb and you're smarter than them, you don't really want to spend more time than you have to with them.
Somebody told me today I should, and I was like, no. I was like, I'm too angry at this point, and they're all stupid. I would hit somebody. I would hit somebody. Can't do it. I'm better over here.
We know our weaknesses.
Just gotta shove it deep down. Just put on a smile and just productive consequences.
Yes. Just the finger wag.
The finger wag. If you need to get physical, just finger wag.
Man.
It's all right. I'll pop up while you're in there, and I'll be like, she said
what she said.
Did
you not see the finger wag?
Campaign slogan for 2026. She said what she said.
She said what she said.
She said,
we're going to be the Cardi B meme in the back corner going,
I'll know I will have made it in modern politics if there's a meme of me by 20.
When you get memed,
oh, yeah.
when you're just in TikTok comments, it'll be us. We'll make it.
It's
and
like
what
they do for
that?
Jasmine when she roasts the cabinet members during the congressional hearings and people make fan edits. Like, I'm just waiting for that for you.
Yeah,
oh yeah,
to do it with all our candidates.
I want to do the positive bleach blonde.
Yeah.
I'll do the positive side of that
bleach.
Yes.
Yeah,
the not evil Marjorie.
That's what she's running on. She's not evil Marjorie Taylor Greene.
That's it.
She's a good blonde. She's
blonde.
Glinda.
Oh my God.
Like a local conservative woman.
Yeah, you're going to have them
conservative
in the
presenting.
hallways going, wait, no, she's a Democrat.
Wait a minute.
No. All the little old Republican men are going to be like, well, thank you so much for coming. And they're like, she's a Democrat.
We joke about that, but it's actually something that really helps because I can go into these communities and say, I'm a Democrat. And where maybe there would have been hostility, they struggle. And so it's trying to get in there and start having productive conversations where we can. But that was a running joke. When I started college at 30 years old, all of my friends thought I was a conservative religious mom, like an eagle mom.
They were like, so you're a Democrat?
Literally undercover.
Yeah.
You're going to be like the undercover spy that they send in to negotiate. They're like, Kaylee, you got to get in there.
Send in Kaylee.
You got to go talk to Mitch McConnell. You have to go in there.
I do. And people say this all the time. And I go, I could have actually won a primary election if I just put the R behind my name. Like, it's a lot more
work.
work.
The switcheroo.
I wasn't.
That's what they do.
I was not known. I wasn't a public figure. I wasn't on social media.
You just
I was
like,
nobody.
My morals don't align with the Republican Party anymore. It's so crazy. It's like I woke up after you guys elected me and decided that I'm actually a Democrat.
I look at anybody who's listening to this, they should Google Idaho GOP's policy platform because you have to swear an allegiance that you will
hell no
platform. And it is horrific. And people are like, why didn't you just run as a Republican? Or why didn't you just, I was like, I don't want to. Like, I want to run
we were smart.
that I care about. And I want to fix the system and fix whatever nonsense is happening right now. We need to.
They knew they were like, they were going to do that. They're going to run as Republican and switch. So we have to make you swear this oath and sign your life away to the Republican Party.
Give us your firstborn.
Yep.
I'll swear that I was the Constitution, but other than that, to my husband and the Constitution, other than that, you're on your own.
Yep.
That's about it. All right. So we're at the last question. Where are you taking us? We're gonna visit everybody when they win. Where are you taking us? What's your hidden gem in Idaho? Where are we
Okay,
going?
we're going to Wallace, Idaho, in Shoshone County. One, the history is amazing. It's right next to the Hiawatha Trail, but there used to be this little town and it was horrible. There was prostitution and brothel and gambling. And so President Taft, before he became president, called it the wickedest city in all of America. And that city got so upset, they named the city Taft after him to spite him. And now,
So
and then
petty.
Wallace is this
So
near
that's something we would do.
mining town. And it's this beautiful, small place. And it has the greatest views I've ever seen in my life, the greatest people, the greatest food, the greatest antique stores. It's just filled with art. And it's just one of my favorite places in the whole state to go. So we're definitely going to have to take a trip to Wallace and then go visit Taft real quick.
Okay, yeah, we're
That's our stop
cancers
on the
and
Restore
yeah,
Democracy trip.
yeah, the pettiest town in America.
pettiest
Sign me up. I'll be right. I might not leave.
But also Wallace, there's another side because Wallace, the miners in Wallace, when it was a company, they started some of the first labor movement. So men died trying to hold the company accountable for their wages and their safety and all of these things. So it's this huge historical moment where Idaho had a real part in the first labor movement. And I think about where we are right now, and it just is exactly where we need to be again with that same spirit, that same unity, that same
We all
accountability.
need to go visit there.
They were
Yeah.
holding some general strikes.
Yeah, they should
Probably.
be. Yeah, they probably did those really great walkouts and strikes and stuff we
Oh, yeah.
get behind. So I feel like we
Hell
do
yeah.
need to pay them a visit.
Oof, sold. I'm sold on
Sold.
every freaking question. Yeah,
Right?
fine. I'll move.
Idaho,
God.
do not drop the ball this year.
Oh,
Okay?
don't piss us
Please
off. Don't
piss
piss us off, please.
We have
Tennessee,
a
you
running
already did.
low-key joke. It's not real, guys. It's sarcastic, but our running low-key joke is that if you don't vote the way we need you to, you cease to exist. So a lot of these districts, we've made the joke that if they didn't vote for governor in New Jersey, that New Jersey would cease to exist.
Oh, I was dead serious. I was not joking. I was dead serious.
We were like, Tennessee, you'll cease to exist. But then we were like, never mind. You slim the margin. You're good. So
But you
Idaho,
pissed us off.
we need you to do your big one this coming year and flip it blue.
I need everybody to understand because when I started this in 2022, there was like 3 of us. There was a small handful of millennial working class candidates who were committed to not taking corporate PAC money.
The millennials.
Now there are hundreds of us. I am constantly being added to new groups of younger candidates committed to not taking dark money who want the same thing. Legitimately, for everybody who's tired of the system the way it is, if you show up to vote in 2026, we could completely reshape Congress and actually protect this country and make it the vision of what we all want. It's
almost like we have power in numbers.
That's crazy.
Almost like when you actually don't wait and only show up to the one election every 4 years, that if you actually go to the midterms and the special elections and all the elections, you'll see multiple Ds. You'll see multiple Rs. You don't have to pick just 1 or 2, but when you don't go to that election, you don't get that option anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly.
What
Also,
more do
I
we
have a
need to hear?
primary opponent. So if people listening are in Idaho, I need you to show up at that primary election and that general election.
Yes,
Yes, there are
you need you
primaries
guys to
too,
understand there are
guys.
primaries that you need to go to as well. That is
There's
where
more than one.
you pick the grassroots candidate that's not taking corporate PAC and APAC money. If you don't go to that, then the person with the corporate and the APAC money wins, and then we have to vote for them because then it's between them and MAGA.
Do we see how this is very preventable?
This is where we fall into the rabbit hole where we allow people like Donald Trump to be in office.
Yeah,
Get
hopefully
involved.
this is something we look back on in 15 years and say, wow, that almost got real dark real fast.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Hopefully we say like, okay, you guys, redirected. We swung the pendulum back towards justice. Like,
they almost got us there for a minute.
Let's not do that again.
I'm buying the drink. As soon as we defeat fascism, drinks are on me.
Drinks
in Wallace, Idaho.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That is going to be worth celebrating. That is going to be so worth celebrating. But Kaylee, we are so thankful that you came onto the podcast and that you are the
Thank you.
last Grassroots candidate interview of 2025, heading into the big year. This is a big year for our Grassroots candidates. You guys got to be listening in, even if it's not your district, because a view just helps it push out into the algorithm and maybe get to somebody in her district that hasn't seen her, which at this point, she's been everywhere. So I don't even know if there's anybody in her district that hasn't seen her, but we got to keep trying. And before she goes, Kaylee, I want to give you a chance to shameless plug your website, where people can donate, volunteer to help you on your campaign, and if you have any in-person events coming up that people could go to.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for sharing your platform and giving us an opportunity, all of us Grassroots candidates. It is so impactful. Obviously, there is not a lot of Kayleys running for Congress, so I am the only Kaylee running for Congress in America. All of my information is KayleeForCongress.com. It's KayleeFor Congress.com. You can email me at KayleeForCongress@gmail. I'm on every social media platform, just Kaylee for Congress spelled out. TikToks, I try and do as many TikTok lives as I can to answer questions and talk about issues. Also on my website, there's an events tab. I try and hold what I call Zoom fireside chats whenever I have a spare night in my calendar. So that's where we all get together on Zoom and you ask me whatever questions you have. I'm hoping it's a more convenient way for working class families to attend town halls than trying to get kids out to an actual venue. But what I'm most excited about, we just held our first ever debate. My opponent has refused to debate me. I hold 9 national titles. I won nationals in debate last year. So, of course, he refuses to meet me on the debate stage. So I without him. We have a life-size cardboard cutout of him that we put at the podium on stage. We have every recorded answer he's given on television and radio. And we put a debate on without him. And we are planning our next one for the end of February in North Idaho. And it's actually one he will be in town for. So we are trying to push him to actually show up sometime before this next election. So keep your eye on
us with a good time.
The events tab.
I have one more question. Are you a Cancer?
My mom is. I'm in.
So she was raised by a Cancer, which is why the level of petty is there.
That's why
That's why the level of petty is there.
Like, this sounds like a person born in July.
I'm like, we will make sure he's there. We will bully him into being there. We're both Cancers, so we're like, oh, now our emotional mission is to make sure this man is bullied into going.
Oh my goodness,
right?
yeah.
Well, that is amazing. I hope everybody is going to your fireside chats. And guys, again, these are Grassroots candidates. They are not taking corporate PAC money. They're not taking APAC money. They're not taking that dark money, which means when it comes time to vote on legislation, they're not voting for who gave them money. They're voting for their constituents, which is how it should be. We got to go back to the roots. And in order to do that, we got to get our Grassroots candidates in, which is why we're doing this here. This is the most important thing. And we're not going to see you until next year. So thinking about this coming new year, you got to figure out when your elections are. So that's what we're going to be focusing on the beginning of 2026, figuring out where your elections are, how you're going to register if you're not, and how you're going to get your ballot and post your ballot on election day. Carry that through the rest of the year. We will see you guys in 2026 with the next Chat GRC. And we thank you guys so much for tuning in every single week. And we will see you in 2026. Thank you, Kaylee.
See you next year.
Bye.